Good morning, and thank you so much for tuning in to Voice Uganda Radio on this beautiful Sunday day, whether it be morning, evening, or afternoon, wherever you are at. We appreciate you for making us a part of your Sunday lineup, so thank you so much. We don't take any of you for granted. We enjoy being able to have the conversations. We enjoy having the calls, and we thank you so much for your time. Also, remember too, I always forget to say it, but if you go out to YouTube, most of our shows are put up out there. The keyword is Voice Uganda Radio, and you can go back and listen to shows that you may have missed, shows that you may want to share with other people and have them listen to, or just that you want to listen to it again later in the day when you have more time. So we always want to remind you that those shows are out there. Before we get going here, let me allow the Honorable Zoe Bakoko to come in and say good morning. Hi, Zoe. Are you there?
Yes, I'm here, Miss Brenda. Good morning, listeners. We are so blessed to have you every Sunday morning, and we appreciate you because without you, we could not have this show. You inspire us, you encourage us to come every Sunday morning, and we are humbled to serve you on this radio. And every Sunday, I look forward to interacting with all of you, the listeners, the callers, everybody. And so I'm really, really grateful. And thank you for being there.
I know. A big thanks back from me, too. And from here at Voice Uganda Radio, we thank you so much. Before we get on our topic of discussion, let me say we are on the air 30 minutes earlier. We're trying to figure out our new schedule because we always run out of time towards the end of the program. So we will probably be coming on at 7:30 most Sunday mornings. So if you want to kind of keep that in mind and remember that, that'll probably be our new schedule. If we change it for any reason, they'll make an announcement during the Saturday shows and the Saturday lineup. You know, Zoe, we got a lot to talk about here this morning, but we cannot go any farther before I say this and allow you to respond to it. More and more Americans are speaking up, and we're not talking about just Americans in the limelight, meaning our senators, our governors, and those in leadership positions, but more and more Americans are speaking out now because the vote for Sam Kutesa comes up June 17th. It is June the 11th. It is a vote that we know a lot of people are starting to pay more and more attention to now that it gets closer and closer. We have a petition that is also circulating, not only the one that's circulating out of UK that has over 3,000 signatures on it, but a new one has gone viral. It was submitted out of Chicago, and by noon it had about 2,300 votes on it in a 4-hour span. So it's showing us more and more and more that the people are standing up against this and the people don't want this to happen. I love it that more and more of the American people are getting behind this and standing for this because this is what we stand on. We stand on what our founding forefathers said in this country, that all men are created equally, which is something that the UN embraces as well. And we can't say that Uganda embraces this at all. So go ahead and comment on how you feel about these petitions, the fact that people still need to go out there and rally behind these petitions and sign them, but that you're starting to have a lot more voices out there being heard as to the fact that this is not a good match for the UN and Uganda.
Yes, Miss Brenda, I couldn't say it better than what you have just said, but I also want to thank the Ugandans. Actually, there are so many Ugandans who have signed on that petition, and many Africans, people all over the world. We are so grateful that they are taking, charge, because, if you don't cast your vote in the right way, you are always the one who loses. We just saw what happened in Luero. So people have to make that choice. Sam Kutesa will it's not even an election. He's just going to be announced, and the UN is just by acclamation going to say that he has been elected, and this will be on the 11th of June. And of course, this cannot be allowed. Yesterday, we had a very good article on The Guardian where the person who wrote the article and the people in UK are actually reaching out to their Prime Minister and saying that, and their Foreign Affairs Minister, and saying, no, this cannot happen. How can a country which has just abused human rights and continuously does it, and even a few months ago, the president signed the anti-gay bill, and then you are rewarding this country to head the UN? How can this be? The UN is supposed to be the one which embraces human rights and protects human rights. And so now, if the UN is doing this, it means the UN is a joke. And so people are rising up. I mean, in the US, in the UK, all over the world, including Ugandans, they are saying, no, this is not right. And Sam Kutesa, as the foreign affairs minister, is the advisor to the president. He should have been the one to speak out because he is the foreign affairs minister and he goes all over the world. Instead, he decided to protect his interest and the interest of his president, and then abuse the human rights of all other people. He has never spoken on any issue, be it the president and his police chief tear gassing opposition, whether it is the men torturing women on the streets after they enacted the anti-miniskirt law, whether it is the opposition on trying to organize and the police tear gas them, or it is the anti-gay law where gay people are being killed and burnt on the streets. And so we cannot allow this to happen. As people who uphold human rights, I think the UN has really made a joke of itself. And this is coming in 10 days. So all of you have to get out there and come out and sign this petition on change.org. And I think yesterday I spoke to several people who have reached out and they are going to sign this petition. So we cannot allow this to happen. Imagine just this week, Mrs. Mbabazi was tear gassed in Sam Kutesa's constituency in Zimbabwe because she was going there to meet young people. How can this happen? This guy is just something else. On this one occasion, he could have spoken out. He didn't. He does not embrace democracy unless it is for him and his president. He does not care about anybody else. If there is corruption, if it serves them, he doesn't care. If it is, how do you, and the laws are being made in parliament. He is a lawyer. Yes. So he should know better, Ms. Brenda. He should know better what laws protect the human rights of Ugandans and what laws don't. And
it's a huge contradiction to the mission that the UN stands by. And the other thing here too, Zoe, is this. Sam Kutesa came out and called us all of us liars simply by stating that all of the facts that have been written about him over these last months and protests of him becoming the president over the United Nations Assembly, he's saying that they're false, they're not true, and that they're lies. When all of this stuff is public knowledge, you can pull this stuff up and see it anywhere. We're not fabricating. We're not coming out against this person because we just want to see his career ruined. We're coming out against him because it's factual, the things that are being printed and said about him.
Miss Brenda, it is very unfortunate because there are people who just are full of themselves. They feel entitled. They feel privileged. They think everybody else is trash. You have heard his president call everybody else stupid little dogs. You have heard him recently calling MP Brenda, now Kenya, who won in Luero, a stupid little girl. And so
let me tell you, if President Obama called us stupid little dogs, he would have been out of office before noon that day. I mean, there's just no tolerance. You don't talk about the people in the country in which you're leading in that way. I mean, these are people who vote for you. These are people who follow you. These are people who want to set the laws for all people, to change their country, to make it better for everyone. When you say stupid little dogs, that doesn't resonate just on the people that you don't like. Mm-hmm. I would have taken that personally, even if I was one of his supporters. I would have taken that very, very personally because it's just not a way that a president speaks about the people he serves.
It actually reflects the kind of person we have or the kind of people who are leading this country, because You cannot speak. That is not a presidential language. That's not the way a president is supposed to command himself. You go and you start ranting and you call everybody a stupid little dog, and you are supposed to be a president. If you are leading stupid little dogs, then you are the father and father of a stupid little dog. You are also father stupid little dog. You understand? Because
Yes.
you cannot be abusing the people who put you there, whom you lead, and call them stupid little dogs, unless you are also a stupid little dog, except you are just bigger than those little ones. That's why you are barking out much, much louder. And so it reflects how, ignorant and backward these countries are still. And when dictators hang on power, something haunts them, and they start using very unpresidential and statesman language. And you listen to these people, and many people, like in the free world, their jaw just drops. Is that coming for a whole president? Is that the guy who is supposed to be the president of this country? And it appears as if everybody in that country is like that. And when actually it's not true. It's just the personality of this one person who feels very privileged and entitled and uses language which is unstatesmanly, and it's just a shame.
Yeah, because the
language so
is...
Kutesa never raises his voice when things like this happen. And he expects to be chairing the United Nations General Assembly, where President Obama will sit, where Senator Kerry, the Secretary of State, will sit, where Prime Minister Cameron will sit, where his Foreign Affairs Minister will sit, where all these big people, the President of Germany, France, everybody will be sitting there, and he will be chairing it. And you have no idea the pride they feel in themselves because they have kicked everybody to the curb, and they sit there. And it's a shame that the UN could do that. Actually, yesterday, somebody, after reading that article on The Guardian, I said, really? Ban Ki-moon endorsed this guy? Does he even know what's happening in Uganda?
Well, they probably have an interest in Uganda. I'm sure that's probably part of that endorsement. But let me just say this. The same way that the sitting President Museveni, wants to sit and be the sole person on the ticket to become president of the country, is exactly what he made happen when Cameroon decided to step aside and allow Sam Kutesa to be the only sole person, so that there's no competition. The voters have nowhere else to go. This is a tactic that he's used time and time again, and it may have worked inside of Uganda. Yeah, it may work in the walls of Uganda, but we cannot allow these type of things to work outside of the country.
And if these countries like the United States and Britain, all these world countries, because Africa has already curled its tail for him. Africa decided to bow down to him because for one reason, Museveni can go to AU and bully Africa. He can be in Congo, he can bully African leaders, they can say nothing. He can go to Sudan, kill people, he can bully African leaders, and they cow down to him. So
wait a minute, Zoe. Okay, so that in itself, that statement that you just made, is very much against what the UN stands for.
True.
It really is.
It is, because it's unthinkable that the United Nations, which has been investigating Uganda because of what its relationship with North Korea, and then the same United Nations, because Uganda plundered Congo, and the women have been raped and they have been infected with HIV. All this was caused by Uganda and Rwanda. The same United Nations, which was investigating Uganda, now is allowing Sam Kutesa to come and chair this assembly. And in this 1 year, by the end of the year, Brenda, you will ask me, Uganda will have cleaned its butt. It will have cleaned all the dirt they have, because Sam Kutesa is a smart lawyer. They are not fighting for that and bullying Africa to cow and only send one candidate for nothing. They have an agenda which they want to achieve. And once he's there, they will achieve that agenda.
Yeah.
So it's up to the world if they're interested that the people the women in Congo was raped in vain. If the UN women accepts that, because they don't care, they are not the ones who were raped. If the UN women says yes, let them be raped, who cares? And then Uganda comes and cleans its butt. And if the UN women thinks the women who have been killed in Sudan is in vain, if we don't owe it to them, if we don't honor their memory, if we don't honor what they have gone through, fine, let them go ahead and do what they're doing and allow Sam Kutesa to be the president of the UN General Assembly. For us, we shall continue to raise the noise, and their conscience will kill them.
Yeah, I agree with what you're saying, though. We have to stand up for the rights of all these people who have been harmed, who have been killed, who have been raped, or other atrocities have happened to them. Because if we don't stand up for them now, we condone all the things that have happened and that have been happening. And then we allow these guys to continue on the path in which they're going. Because what will stop them if we don't stop them now? They will feel the power.
He knows that Sudan is a stinking thing for him, and he wants to be there to go and change things. And yet the truth of the matter is that he went to Sudan on his own. The morning breeze in Uganda was discussing this. He went there, he lied to the parliament that, oh no, he was invited by the president of South Sudan, Salva Kiir, when the Minister of Defense said, no, we didn't invite President Museveni. He went to, after Parliament agreed and they passed the motion for him to be in Sudan, then he goes to African Union and he says, no, I went there to fight side by side with the president of the Sudanese government. How, and the army? How on earth can a president flip-flop on foreign issues like this and be allowed? And his foreign minister, who is there standing by his side, is being allowed to come and chair the United Nations General Assembly. How does that happen? Anywhere in the world. Where is the justice?
Yes.
Where is the justice for the people in Sudan? Where is the justice for the women who have been raped in Congo and all the plundering of Congo? Where is the justice of people who have suffered in Uganda? Where is the justice? Where is the justice?
Yes.
I mean, it's like in the memory of Auntie Maya Angelou, who said, for you to keep silent, there's no crime bigger than just not even speaking out. When you have something inside you and you keep quiet about it, you are alone yourself.
Yeah, well, it eats away at you like a cancer, because when you know the way that the country should be led and the people should be treated. I read an article just this week on the youth NRM group there, and how he is starting to chastise them and treat them now because of this loss there with Brenda Nabakenya. I think this man will find a way to blame anybody and everybody for what goes wrong, but never put the blame back on himself. I mean, he's telling them he's tired of all the fighting, that the youth are saying one thing this day and one thing the next day. I think the youth that are strongly standing on the morals and principles of what they believe, I don't think they're changing their minds. I think they're standing firm. But for this man to say, I will deal with them, I will crush them, I mean, we go back to talking about the language that he starts to use. And this is with the youth who are trying to rise up to bring about change in their own lives.
Of course, that is his language. He likes the word crush. Remember in December, when the Sudan conflict just started, of course, he was a full participant in making that crisis in Sudan. He came out and said, in 4 days, if Riek Machar does not come back and stop, they are going to crush him. 4 days. Today is 6 months. It is 6 months today. He said it. He flip-flops. What does he expect of the youth? He's talking about himself. He's not talking about the youth. The youth have been very, very consistent. They don't want him They don't understand what he talks about when he says we poured our blood, we died for you. You did not die for these young people who were born during your 30 years. Plus
Yeah.
the 5 years in the jungle, it is 35 plus years that you were
Yeah.
there. These are 20-year-olds. These are 30-year-olds. They don't understand what you are talking about. The youth want freedom. They want jobs.
Yes.
These young people want independence. They are tired of being tear gassed. They don't understand.
Yeah, even, it's interesting that you would say that, because that's exactly what the youth want. Comments that were made, the president had a conversation with Susan Rice, about his constituents and how they feel about him in the election coming up. And it's very well known that 54% of the people right now say that, yes, they would probably have something to do with voting him in, but 77% says no. Well, that's a weird margin, because that's not 100%. So I kind of was wondering where they get that figure from, but it's simply this. It's all the ghost people and all the different ones that will vote that have nothing to do with voting. Uganda doesn't have a 100% system. It has a 110 or 120% system. But this is what he said. He said, we have a way of dealing with that. If my constituents don't want me in office, I have a way of dealing with that. And I hope when the time comes that the United States will turn the other way. I wondered in my own mind, who in their right mind would make such a statement to such a high leader in the American system and think that that would not go viral within our community. What we want to know, what does that mean? You have a way of dealing with that, and that you hope the United States turn their heads the other way. I mean, those are really, it makes me think about what happened in Rwanda when everyone did turn and look the other way.
Because that he knows that's the kind of game he plays, and they butchered people in Rwanda, and the US and everybody turned their head the other way because they had done a lot of propaganda. They butchered people in Uganda, they butchered people in Congo, they have butchered people in Sudan. People have turned their heads the other way because they were calling Museveni one of the emerging, in quote, leaders. And they thought which was really good for Africa. The guy is a selfish man for himself, not for anybody else. Anything which is not for him, he doesn't care about the US. He doesn't. He's doing some of the things for the US because he rips out of it. He gets a lot of money out of this Somali thing. He gets a lot of money out of the things he's doing. He's not just a willing ally. He's just an ally because his own self-interest is being met. And so the US is actually a hostage, and the West is actually a hostage to him. It's not the other way around. So that's why he says those kind of blatant, bold words. And
that was pretty blunt and bold. We got a call, Zoe, coming in. Let's go ahead and take this caller that's on. Hey, caller, are you there? Come on in and introduce yourself.
Yes, good morning, Miss Brenda, and good morning, Miss Honorable Zoe Bakoko. My name is Musana. As usual, I always open up the phone lines.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning. First of all, we do appreciate your time, and we do understand the difficulties you guys face to bring this program to us. Yes, I want to talk more about what Miss Brenda was talking about, English official asking Museveni and Paul Kagame about that. What if the people of Uganda decide to rise up, just like what happened in the Arab country, what they call Arab Springs? Museveni's response was, we have a plan, and we hope you guys look the other way. Yes, Honorable Bakoko, you are right. The world looked the other way when it came to Rwanda, when it came to Congo, when it came to Sudan, when it came to Central Africa, and now in Sudan they have used cluster bombs, and this came from Uganda to kill innocent Sudanese mothers with their children in the back. And here we have a man called Sam Kutesa vying for this position, UN General Assembly President. And these cluster bombs, they are no longer used. It's against the law by the UN not to use this type of bombs. And here we are. Sam Kutesa is ready to get this position. And when they went to investigate to collect evidence about the cluster bomb, the government of South Sudan refused the investigator to go gather evidence. We have a man in Uganda as president, a man who does not value human lives, who believes that in order to bring people to order, you must use violence. He believes that violence will bring peace. And in the essence, it's the opposite. This man does not value human life. As I was told yesterday, that Museveni has been using tear gas on Prime Minister's wife twice. He has tear gassed her for trying to talk to the youth. And from what I was told, he instructed the media not to cover that type of event, that Mama Baba's wife was tear gassed. And here we have a crazy man, Mama Baba's, running around like a stupid fool, talking about Museveni will not be challenged, Museveni's lone candidates. How stupid can Ugandans be? Your wife being tear gassed, and you support the other guy for tear gassing your wife. That shows that Uganda has gone the dogs. The dogs have come to Uganda in form of Museveni. There is something very interesting that I'm sure you guys have heard about it. The Karamajongs were killed to disarm them because of they were using they had a lot of guns, and Museveni is very proud of that achievement of disarming Karamajongs. Recently, there was a battle between the Rwandese, or we call them Balalo. These people are cattle herders. They used to use sticks, but now they have AK-47, and this is not by design. This is not by accident, by design. Museveni armed these people with AK-47, and they had a battle with police, and the policemen were killed. I wonder why, if Museveni is going to use the same UPDF to go and disarm these type of people, but you cannot brag about disarming the Karamojong, who had the guns, and they were cattle herders, and they were using the guns to protect their animals, or whatever reason they used to. It's the same thing with this Balalo having guns, and Museveni provided them with the AK-47. I wonder if Museveni is going to use the same standard to disarm these people. And lastly, this man is talking about rigging elections. It is a shame that even after 30 years in power, the man is still talking about elections, talking about Elia Kategaya, his best friend now who is deceased, that he voted 8 times and he was underage. Now we have a saying that you tell me who your friends are, and I'll tell them their character. Cows move with cows. Dogs move with dogs. And yes, Museveni, you cannot tell me you are any different from rigging the election. Since your best friend, Elia Kategaya, did it. This man is always pointing a finger at another person. He will never take personal responsibility. But yet, he wants Ugandans to have that character. Take personal responsibility. If you go to police stations are not even police stations. We've seen them. Now, policemen are being killed. But these are the same guys who are going around tear gassing the innocent people in the name of one family to stay dominant in our lives. Enough is enough. And I'm calling on all Ugandans to please stand up. Time has come. This man is not there for our benefits. This man is there for the benefits of his family. And it's time that we wake up. We should not be like a Mama Baba's, where his wife is tear gassed and he goes on praising the same man who is tear gassing his wife. We are different. Let's show him the true character. And yes, we want to show him so that the world can look the other way, which we will not, because we are determined to free ourselves. Thank you so much, and I think I've talked too much. Thank you so much.
No, you haven't, Musana. Thank you so much for your call, and I'm going to go ahead and let the Honorable Zoe Bakoko comment to those the things that you brought up, especially the fact that dogs move with dogs and cows move with cows. Go ahead, Zoe.
Yeah, there's the saying, the birds of the same feather fly together. Museveni is the chief rigger. He understands rigging. That's why he's ranting over what happened in Luero. He expected the Electoral Commission to be with him to rig the elections. He already put the police there to intimidate and tear gas all the voters, all the people who are supporting the opposition and Brenda Kenya. And so he thought that his usual tricks were going to work in Luero. But this time people said, tear gas us, you bring your police, you let your Electoral Commission. They stood there, they cast the vote, they didn't move away. And so actually last week we failed. And for me, I think this time the Electoral Commission did something which was really different. They said, we are not going to be part of this rigging. For us, we will count these votes in front of the people and announce the results. And that is our job. And so the Electoral Commission did very well. And you heard Museveni ranting that the Electoral Commission failed the NRM, which means he expected, because he is the one who appoints the Electoral Commission, he expects them to pay him back by rigging the elections. And so the institutions in Uganda are useless. They don't work. And that's why last week I said, I hope we can only have now hope in the judiciary, particularly I think the Supreme Council, the Supreme Court. Because look at what happened in Malawi. The lady, the president, rose up and said, no, these election results are nullified, give it 90 days, and the Supreme Court said, no, the results are here, we are not going to have 90 days, and we are not going to have money to run another election, or here are the results. She did not even come close. She was number 3, and she conceded. In Malawi, the courts can say this is what it is, and the incumbent can cuddle and say and concede defeat. But in Uganda, that was going to be war. If for a mayor MP, that is what happens. What would happen if it was a president? Museveni, before he came into Luero to start that war, Museveni had an agenda. Let me tell you, Miss Brenda and the listeners, Museveni had an agenda to ensure that he would have the monopoly and power for the military and control. He made sure he was going to have the economic power. That's why they have been having all this corruption and amazing all this wealth. He wanted to make sure they would have the political power. And once they had all these 3 things, then nobody could get close to them. Even if he left, they could buy, because they are the richest people. They could forward or front a candidate, and they could buy the votes because they have the money. And he thinks money speaks. And once he controls the military, if people rise up, he can even stage a fake coup, and the military can do it for him. So these are the things Museveni has been building for 30 years. That's why there's no development in Uganda. If all the money had been spent on development of the country, we would have functional health centers. You just saw a report where in Mulago, a woman delivered in the kitchen. Yes. Can you imagine that? Huh? In those health centers in the villages, there are no drugs. The health centers look like some ramshackled something, a place which is even unfit for a woman to deliver in. So where has all the money been going? Museveni and the Kutesas, they have been amazing all this money so that they have the economic power. They have the financial and economic power. He has been building the army not to protect Uganda, but to control it so that he has the military power. He has been building the political power so that now he has the military power, he has the financial and economic power, then he can front anybody when he's tired, when he has lost all his teeth and he's 90 years old, 100 years old, and he has been in power. Because you saw somewhere they said he is going to run in 16 and 21. And so after that, he will be walking with a stick. He will still be the president of Uganda. When his eyes cannot see, when all his teeth are gone, then they will front somebody they can put there because they have the money. You can imagine the kind of people we are having in Uganda who are supposed to be leading the country. So how do you expect him to have the interest of other people? He cannot. That's why he's arming the Balalu. He's arming the Balalu. He took away the guns from the Karamojong because the Karamojong are not the people he can control. He can control the Balalu. So he can arm the Balalu to be part of the UPDF which he controls. So that if anything happens, then he will take charge.
I know. I was going to say, when they start pointing the guns in his direction, he takes them and gives them to someone else. We have another caller coming in, so let's go ahead and take this, Zoe. Go ahead and announce yourself and come on in, caller.
Hello. Good morning, ladies. It's wonderful hearing your voices again. Good morning. This is like a fresh cup of tea in the morning for me when I hear your voices coming off the airwaves.
Well, thank you very much. We appreciate that.
Yeah, and I have been really tingled by so many of the issues that you have raised, and I might maybe occupy more time than I usually do when I call in. Just for the benefit of the listeners, this is Chiwanuka Lawrence in Sereko, calling from New York. There's a number of issues that you have raised, but I will start a little distant away from their home politics in Uganda. I almost wanted to read the entire statement by Dr. Joyce Banda when she conceded defeat last night, because it shows you what some of us have been speaking about in low tones and how important it is. Because I believe, this is why I enjoy your program so much, that the women voices, once they take the front and the center of the liberation struggle, something special is going to happen. Because the one thing that you transcend as women is the issue of egoism. You are very malleable to so many situations, and your understanding and care about humanity is excellent. You listen to Lady Banda as she speaks. She was very uncomfortable with the results of the elections. She really pushed very hard, but yesterday she came back and she is appealing to her political party. She's appealing to her supporters. She is praising and the opposition, and she's saying that let us support the new government and let's give it all our support. Now, these are people with whom she's been in the campaign fighting. And for me, this is why I believe when Teddy Turner said that we as men, we should take a vacation for 100 years out of politics and let women run the affairs, he was up to something very interesting. Okay, because here we are, and when it comes to issues of liberation, and whether you go to the spiritual wing, if you look at the from the Christian side, or from the entire Islamic faith, you're going to find that when we were wallowing in sin or in darkness, it took a woman to give us Jesus. Okay, you go to the Islamic faith, Muhammad would have been nothing without Khadija. Okay, this is the woman who pushed her. Jesus would not have made it, I believe, without Mary of Magadra. Okay, she's the woman who basically she got all her money from her fishing business and he gave it to Jesus' ministry. So women are becoming a centerpiece, and we should look at what Joyce Banda said in her concession speech, which is very lengthy, but still, because this is the voice that is focused on by women. I really wanted you to say that. Now, trying to narrow the issue down, I'm going to be talking about maybe 2 issues or 3. One, I first want to talk about the issue of Samu Kahamba Kutesa. Now, at a personal level, I have received about 4 messages from people who are friends of mine. One is a member of the cabinet, Museveni's cabinet. And I know they've talked to Kutesa about what some of us are doing here on the radio and on the internet. And they are asking me to step back. And they are saying that we are shaming the nation of Uganda. I would like to state very clearly that the issue of Kutesa is not about Kutesa as a person. It's not about shaming Uganda. It's actually about defending the dignity of Uganda and Africa at large.
Yes.
People like Kutesa, we've given up on them in regards of their, because their moral fabric has been torn asunder. It's into threads. They have no moral standing. But there is an image of Uganda and Africa that we have to protect. The thing I'm arguing about here, and I hope my friends are hearing, the ones who wrote to me, even I replied to them, is that we cannot export impunity and expect dignity.
Yes.
The two cannot be in the same chamber. Impunity and dignity cannot coexist. You cannot get a country where people, the wife of the prime minister, gets tear gassed in your constituency, okay, and you say that there is freedom in Uganda. You tell lies about the AHA, the Anti-Homosexuality Act. We have the media law in Uganda, where journalists are being required to be licensed so that they can be gagged, and the result is what you see. Jackie, that's the wife of the prime minister in Uganda. She was tear gassed 2 weeks ago in Kayunga. Nobody wrote about it. Yesterday, she was tear gassed in Zimbabwe. Okay? You are not going to see it on the news. All you are seeing that a meeting was cancelled by the police. So, and this is where Kutesa is the principal advisor to the Museveni regime. We have so many draconian laws in Uganda alone, okay, without even talking about the crimes that Uganda committed in the Congo, the use of cluster bombs, as Musana has told us, in southern Sudan, which are provided by Uganda. And the Uganda Army commander says, for us, all we know is we have bombs. We don't know which is a cluster bomb and which is not. Now, this is the kind of government that Kutesa is representing. And this is the kind of impunity and criminal behavior we cannot allow to represent Africa at the highest level of political association at the UN. If Africa is going to be represented, it should be represented by decent souls. For example, I know even within the Museveni government, at least today as we speak in the cabinet of Museveni, there are 3 individuals whom I will not name here, because if I do, then they will be looked at differently. There are 3 individuals who could represent Uganda effectively at the UN, because at least in them, even though they are working with this horrible government, there is some decency that can be acceptable. Therefore, I believe that we need to stand firm. There's an idea that this coming Thursday there might be a demonstration in front of the UN to petition the UN physically that don't accept Kutesa. I think let's see how it rolls out, because this is really a problem. We need to address this, not only as Ugandans. You know, I will go a little into maybe what I call Kakuni politics. And they say the Northern Hemisphere politics, that's Europe and North America, have primarily looked at Africa as a place of monkeys in so many ways historically. That's what it has been. We give them Kutesa with his dirt. We will be justifying that attitude. We have to save our image and come out and present ourselves as fully fledged human beings who are capable of performing at the international scene without bringing these dirty people to represent us. Uganda has been seen through the lens of the North by the image of Idi Amin. We cannot allow ourselves to be seen through the image of people like Sam Kutesa. I want to repeat again, a person who is responsible, or a government which is responsible for the death of millions in the Congo and within the country in Uganda, particularly in northern Uganda, we cannot allow them. We cannot allow them to come and represent Africa at the UN. That is my brief take at the as it regards to the issue of Sam Kutesa. But before I transition into another segment that I want to comment on, I want to tell my brother Musana that Uganda has not gone to the dogs, and the dogs did not come to Uganda. Dogs follow rules. If you have a dog, you can train it, and it will get rules in its head. What has happened to Uganda? Uganda has gone to the jackals, and the jackals have come to Uganda, and they are tearing it to threads. So that's for my brother Musana. Now, I want to move to another topic, which regards the elections in Uganda and the militarization of politics in Uganda. 2 days ago, Museveni traveled to Kasese in western Uganda, and he instituted a new king whom never existed, a king of the Bamba. But the person he put in place as the king of Bamba, which is a clan or a sub-ethnic entity, is Major Martin Kamia. Now, rewind your clocks a little bit back a few years ago when we had the riots in Kayunga. The person Museveni was instituting in Kayunga as the king of another creation of a kingdom outside of the existing kingdom of Baganda was Major Chimeze. Chimeze, yeah. Okay. Now, those are two people. Museveni is introducing them to be cultural leaders, but these are institutions he is creating, and these are army men. Now, move forward. Museveni last week said that he lost the elections in Luwero because NADS was not giving good things to the people of Luwero. Madame Zoe will bear me out. Some of her colleagues and herself, they were against politicization of NADS when they were in government. And Museveni went ahead and politicized the NADS and they basically made it part of the NRM political infrastructure. Now, he's saying NADS must be dissolved. But listen further and read further to his proposal. He's proposing that the duties of NADS should be taken over by the UPDF, which is the army of Uganda.
Yeah.
Now, move forward. Today, the Uganda police force is under the command of a military general. The Ministry of Internal Affairs, which deals with the prisons and the police, is also run by a military general. The Uganda Revenue Authority, which is the tax collecting agency in Uganda, which is the IRS, so to say, of Uganda, its operations, its custom checkpoints are all run by the army, by the military police. So these are issues that we need to be very careful of. There is this slow, gradual militarization of all institutions in the country. That's why you see, if there's a problem in the marketplace, you don't see the regular police, you see the army. Well, everything, you're seeing the army all over the place. Museveni is currently so dejected because he was rejected by the population. And I would like to say that we must work doubly hard and have NRM retired because they are actually retarded politically. And if we do not do so, they are going to retard our country. There is what I call political gangrene, which is eating us up, and we must cut that part which is infected off before the entire body is actually eaten up by the disease. And one way to do it, to stop this political gangrene, is to stop and cut the lobbying program that Museveni is working on, which includes the installation of Kutesa at the UN to interfere with the process of international prosecution of the crimes against humanity that Museveni and his people have committed against the country. And in conclusion, I want to talk about Museveni's rant in regards to rigging of elections. Some people might not know, but Museveni is trained in rigging elections. Between October 1968 and mid-1969, he was sent by the then head of the intelligence in Uganda to go to North Korea to receive training in what they called electoral management, because they were planning to have elections in 1971 in the Milton Obote government. And Museveni traveled to North Korea and he was trained. He spent 8 months out there training in how to rig elections. So this business of saying the opposition is rigging elections, we know this. Those who have access to the documents of the late Dr. Naftali Akena Adoko, who was his boss, can find this written somewhere in his documents. Okay. And it's a fact that he was in North Korea. Actually, in passing, Janet Museveni says that he ran into Museveni at Entebbe Airport in 1969 when he was coming back from North Korea. Actually, that reminds me, I wish I still had the book with me to read the particular page. So Museveni was coming from North Korea to be trained in how to rig elections. So by training, Museveni is not democratic. Let's do not get it wrong. Mm-hmm. Therefore, we cannot utilize the usual means to unseat him. We need to find alternative ways, use people's power, not at the ballot box alone, though the ballot box will be helpful, but all possible ways should be utilized to unseat the regime in Kampala. And I want to appeal to all Ugandans that let's show these people that we have the capacity to do some of this stuff by putting our hands together. One, fight the Kutesa deal thing and make the UN understand that even if they succeed in installing him, there is an objection on record. Two, let's show Museveni on the ground that we are not equivocating when it comes to the people's desire to remove him from power. We can do this by either exhibiting what was exhibited in the recent elections in Ruel, by rejecting him at his gatherings, despite the monies that he's dishing out, And 3, that all Ugandans, in whatever political orientation you are in, please contribute materially, financially, and time-wise. Okay. Here at FADU, we appeal for contribution. FUF is appealing for contribution and assistance. Whether you are in the FDC, you are in DP, you are in UPC, you are in JEMA, whichever political institution you belong to, please don't belong to it half-heartedly. Belong to that organization full-heartedly and support it to the ultimate end so that we can have change in Uganda. Again, I want to conclude by thanking the ladies who run this program, and my hopes are being raised each and every morning because I can see that the mothers have cried out, and believe me, their cry will be heard. Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us here on Freedom at Hand on this Sunday morning on Voice Uganda Radio. Zoe, I know you probably are just squirming in your seat there with a lot to say. Let me just say this as I go to you, though. We had talked earlier about this program being specifically on the issue of police officers that are dying, that are being killed, murdered, missing, tortured, or whatever. So much of what he says resonates with my heart on some of the issues that we've talked about in private with concerning this. Go ahead, if you will, and comment a little on some of the things that he had to share that with us this morning.
Yeah, I always appreciate Lawrence. I appreciate Musana. When they come in, they just lift our spirits because of the support. Because we need the support from our brothers. We need the support from the men to be able to do what we are doing. And I just appreciate them. I'm so grateful to have them walking side by side with us in this struggle.
And say good morning to Dorothy before you get going there.
Good morning, Dorothea.
Good morning, Honorable Zoe.
Welcome.
How are you?
I'm fine.
Thank you for everything. Yes. Good morning, Miss Brenda, and everybody who's listening.
So,
good morning, Dorothy. We're going to let Zoe go ahead and start here, and then you can comment after she's done. I know you've been listening in. Go ahead, Zoe.
Yeah, I'll just be summarizing, and then I can give Dorothy the opportunity. You spoke, Miss Brenda, about 54% of people in a study which was done in Uganda, that 54% of people say they still want President Museveni, and 77 said no. And if you add up the numbers, it doesn't go to 100. It's more than 100. Actually, exactly. It's 100 and I think 133%. And so this is just a game. It's a psychological game to play with the minds of the people. People rejected Museveni yesterday, and if there's a secret ballot, people will throw him out. And if there's no intimidation, if there's no police, if there's nothing, people will throw him out just like that. And so this 77 plus is actually the correct number, but the 57 is just to manipulate the minds of people, that there are still people and that he still can win by over 50%. Because in Uganda, you have to get over 50% of the votes, at the presidential level. So they just want to make people make believe that Museveni is still alive. The guy, people don't want him. People actually don't want him yesterday. And so those figures, which don't rhyme, even show you exactly the kind of games they are playing. Mr. Lawrence and Musana said it very well. Look at, and I said Museveni's agenda when he was coming to power was to have the monopoly of the military, the monopoly of the financial and the economic power in Uganda, the monopoly of the political power. So that even if, he grew old, he was walking on a stick, he lost all his teeth, he will still be the president of Uganda. And when he decides to retire, maybe 30 years from now, then they would be able to front somebody whom willingly they can buy They can buy because they are making the entire population very poor, and they are militarizing. You have seen even mere cultural institutions. He is putting military people to head these cultural institutions. You remember, even last week, he was going to address a cultural institution in Busoga. And the prime minister, or the guy who was supposed to receive him, he died. And Museveni continued, went ahead and gave his speech anyway. The guy fell, collapsed, he was taken to hospital, he died. But the process still went on. He went ahead and still gave his speech. In my culture, if that had happened, people would have, in honoring the memory of the guy who had just collapsed and died, the shock would have been too much, and nobody would have carried on with that event. People would have just said, let's postpone it. But for him, because he is so power hungry, he went ahead and addressed the people, the cultural leaders in Busoga. It is just unbelievable. He wants to put all these military people to stifle all the real cultural leaders in Uganda. Because he's a military leader, he has stifled the cultural institution of Ankole. He has denied them the right to have that cultural institution functioning. And so he's doing the same thing for the one in Kasese. He's doing the same thing for the one in Kayunga, where he wants to bring all this confusion and put these military people there when he decides to fake his coup or something, because people really don't want him. Then
I know, and let me interrupt you 1 second so we can go ahead and take this call, Zoe. Zoe, caller, are you there? Go ahead and introduce yourself and come on in.
Oh yes, good morning, ladies.
Good morning.
Thank you. My name is Nick. I'm calling from UK.
Go ahead. How are you this morning?
Yeah, not too bad. Everything's fine. We thank you for the wonderful program.
Thank you so much for calling in.
We thank you for educating the public, the people of Uganda especially, about what's going on. This is a real fire. Well, just to be real quick, I think the caller who was on air a few minutes ago, was it Mr.
Lawrence?
Mr.
Yes.
Yes. He has given us a long, really story of how things have been unfolding and how things are going. But there's one area where I disagree with him when he says that people should oppose by ballot and by whichever means, which reading between the lines, he means supporting the opposition. Yet he knows very well that we've tried that for so long and none of these means has worked. Oppositions have been there for as long as almost any of them has been in power, but they haven't yielded any good results. So they are becoming useless and people are giving up. We have tried ballot. He himself said that Museveni was sent to Korea for 8 months long training and he's an expert in rigging elections. So he was telling us to go back to ballots again. We've done every now and then, and it has failed completely. So why does he still have hope that the ballot will ever reach a time and yield any benefits, which has failed a million times? This man has robbed billions of pounds with his friends like Kutesa. They're sitting on billions of dollars, right? Why do you think it's going to work? So that's my question to Mr. Lawrence. Ballot has failed.
Yeah, let me just give you a mothering perspective for that really quick, and then I'll let you go on. When a mother is nursing her baby, and that baby has to go from the bottle to now drinking milk out of a glass, it is something that has to happen very gradually. You don't just wake up one morning and say the baby's old enough, let's give her a glass of milk. So there are people that still cling on to the old traditional ways of the way things need to be done, and then there's those who cling to the new traditional way of the way things have to be done. In order to get that to merge together to become one, as we always talk about in uniting, it's a gradual process that has to happen. Otherwise, you lose a lot of people along the way. The baby would starve if the mother just one day handed her a glass of milk and she wasn't ready for that. So I think a lot of what we talk about on this program is we understand the direction in which we need to go, but we also understand and know there's a gradual process that needs to happen. Lawrence is coming back in now to answer your call too, so just hang on and we're going to go back to Lawrence real quick. Hey, Lawrence, go ahead.
Hello, thanks for the wonderful question, my brother. I think maybe we are lost in translation. And what I want to say is this, that we must sacrifice in all ways that we can, and we must not equivocate. We must oppose this regime and work towards its removal. Can
I just interrupt you for a second?
Okay.
Yeah, it sounds very good when you say let's oppose the regime in any way possible. Yes, that's very good. But I mean, are we laying down any practical ways? People want us to sound practical. What exactly do they? Because we are the followers. What exactly do you want us to do?
Okay.
Because we have tried to join the opposition and things failed. We've tried to go to the ballot to kick him out by the ballot, and things failed.
Yes. Okay. Let me say there are certain strategic mechanisms that are being worked out, which, as someone who is part of the group that is working out mechanisms, I cannot say those on air. But there are other things that the public can do to isolate the regime in Kampala that are not a problem. For instance, do not attend their rallies when they call their rallies. You can refuse to pay taxes.
Just hang on 1 minute there. When you refuse to attend the rallies, they have tried it. They go around, as I told you, he's sitting on billions of dollars. He goes around paying people cash who come to attend the rallies.
Can I come in?
Yes, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think, Nick, yes, you have a very good concern. And if I heard what Lawrence was saying very well when he was talking, I think he said that, we have to oppose this government with our soul, with our body, with our mind, with everything that we have. And you have seen in other countries, for example, the Arab Spring, the people came together. And when they did come together, they turned upside down those governments. Ugandans, you are talking of opposition. The opposition has been fragmented. You just saw last week an example of opposition power of one. When all the opposition came together in Luero, they were able to get the result and they elected now Kenya in spite of Museveni tear gassing them, in spite of Museveni going down to abuse them. People didn't turn up in their rallies as they did turn up in the rallies of the opposition. So that to me is a sign that things can happen. Even if Museveni, how much money did Gaddafi have? How much money did Mubarak have? How much money did Ali have in Tunisia? They are billionaires too, but they are sitting on all those billions and they left those countries and they were chased away. And so people's
Thanks very much, Ms. Bakoko. If I'm just to interrupt you just a minute. Yes, Museveni does allow a few posts to be won by the opposition. Just to
he does allow? You think that Luero was allowed by Museveni?
I think 16,000 is
if he doesn't interfere with the votes, he doesn't rig, then he has allowed. He would allow Lukwago to be voted through. But if it comes to presidential elections, everybody knows the game changes. This time round, he's going to be actively involved, and he will use the tactics he acquired from his 8-month-long training in Korea, whoever helps him, to make sure it doesn't happen. Everybody knows that very well.
My brother, we have hope, and we know that the people of Uganda can come together. They have done this before. It's not just today.
If you give an example of the Arabs, if you give an example of the Arabs, they had it took a different course. Just like my brother Lawrence says that they're working on a mechanism underground.
I think you are deliberately driving at something. I don't know what it is, but the issue here we are talking about on the radio. Listen to. I've been listening to you, Mr. Nick. I've been listening to you. Lawrence came out and spoke about several things. One of them was coming out together as opposition to opposing Museveni. The other one, listen. Can you listen?
Yes.
Too, because you have to listen to be able to understand. I've been listening to you, and so we have to listen to each other. You want people to say something, and Museveni turns around and calls them a terrorist organization. If you want me to say that to you, I will. Because that is what you are driving at. And you know that Museveni will play that card very effectively. And that's how he has fought opposition in Uganda. And we are not as stupid. And we are just going to go on, and Museveni will go. We are going to have a new Uganda where everybody who comes from Uganda is appreciated, whether you are from the greater north, whether you are from the greater east, whether you are from the central, or whether you are from the west. We are not going to blame the people of the west for Museveni's crimes. Museveni is an individual doing all those crimes. He will live and go by himself. And Museveni will live. It may be looking like an impossible task, but it has happened and it can happen in Uganda.
Yeah, and let's go back to Lawrence real quick and let him comment to that. And then, Nick, if you have anything else to say, we'll go to you. Go ahead, Lawrence.
Nick, I can understand fully your desperation. There are people who have been suffering in the opposition. If you know a little history of mine, you will understand that 2 weeks into power, Museveni put me in jail. Okay, so I've been opposed to him for that long. But we cannot despair. When you are trying to maybe have children, you try and try and try, and there will be failings on the way. And these failings that we have experienced, for instance, 4.5 years ago, even 3 years ago, the opposition in Uganda was fragmented. We tried to unite them in the last elections to have one candidate. They would not listen. Today, they are traveling the entire country together. They have realized. So I would like to encourage you to keeping on. And my appeal is for us to contribute, to be fully involved. Okay? To be fully involved. And if you have ideas that you cannot channel through the forum here, you can definitely figure out how to get in touch with some of us. And we can talk. We can share ideas and see how to get out of the chokehold the regime in Kampala under Museveni is putting on us. So do not despair, because in a way I sense a sense of saying nothing is working. Believe me, something is working. Going to work.
Okay. Yes.
Something is working now.
Let's keep hope against the hope. Something will work out one time.
Yes,
but
jump
otherwise,
on that hope horse and ride it adroitly. Okay?
It's gonna happen, Nick. It's gonna happen.
There's a saying by Einstein that if you keep trying one formula over and over and it doesn't work, then it's like you're taking leave of your senses if you continue along that line using the same formulas. You just realize, probably having tried everything, these things for almost 30 years now, and nothing is working out.
For instance, have you ever seen Besigye, Nobert Mao, Olaro Tunu, Chibirige, Ngrinje at the same platform? They did it. Okay? Now, what we need to do, there are about maybe 38 opposition groups in the diaspora.
Yeah.
Can we get them all together?
Yes.
That will be one step forward.
And we're already in that process.
We are in that process. We have
the groups in diaspora. Yes, I do understand. I think that one. I think that would be a step forward.
Yes,
we are already
because they're not
process.
within Museveni's field.
Yeah, so let's work.
No, my brother, don't give hope. Don't give up hope.
Okay, no problem. Thanks very much. That was
Nick,
my.
Nick, Nick, are you there?
Yes,
I'm
he's still there. Go ahead, Dorothy.
Okay, thank you so much, Miss Brenda. Nick, is this your first time to listen to Voice of Uganda Radio, or you have been listening for a while?
Well, I've been on and off, but I think it's my first time to listen to a program properly for long enough to understand what's going on.
Yes, because if you have been full-time, we've been on air about 9-10 months by now. I think if you have been full-time, you would have had a clear picture for what we really stand for. Okay? I don't think... so one thing I want to mention here, because last weekend we really got into hot arguments here, which was good, because some of us came up and we congratulated our sister Brenda Nabukenya. Okay, and some callers, our brothers and sisters, very, very, concerned as we were. They were saying, wait a minute, this is a one-time win. We cannot allow, exactly as you said, that Museveni sometimes allows certain people to win. When it comes to 2016, it won't be the same case. But a lot of positive things happened in that election anyway, as the other callers have explained very well. Now, for me, as a matter of fact, Voice of Uganda Radio here, I will speak for myself as Dorothy. I do not believe in elections come 2016 because it's not going to work. Yeah, no. But by these by-elections, people need to practice because Museveni is running around. You see that massive document he wrote, 11-page opposition rigging. You see, he's hot. He gave the Electoral Commission orders not to announce Brenda as a winner. He did it. But they said no.
Yes.
Yes, they went against him. So we want to look what is in the positive there too. You saw Professor Bukenya coming out openly. That was a big deal. That was a big deal. Because Museveni comes here, me and Mbabazi, we are one. There is no fight in the NRM. The fact is NRM itself is falling apart.
Yeah, it is.
So we need to train our people to stand up. Each by-election or any kind of election that's coming, people need to be trained to be ready, just oppose it, slam those doors as people did in Ruel. But I'm telling you, when we say all of other means possible, that is the truth. We are not going to let anything out of the table. For 28, 30 years, this man has handled everything with impunity, killing and everything. So, if people are there to practice what is going on now, let them vote to show the world that we don't need this man. Because something funny is happening here. You see how this Honorable Zoe mentioned this. Monitor, I don't know what is happening with the monitor. I don't know what is happening behind locked doors, but we need to figure out. Dictators, they play a psychological game. The reading monitor is hanging on to convincing Ugandans. Last time they did draw a chart why Museveni how 54% they want Museveni back in power. They gave reasons why he's the only one who is possible. He's the founder of the party. He has done well. When you add the numbers, they do not add up. They are upside down. Okay? Now, they came back again, the same thing. 54% want Museveni in power. In Uganda, you know what all Museveni needs is 51%. And they're trying to, train people's minds. That's what.
Yeah,
so that
because
2016 people are not surprised. So, my brother, we have to
entire media, is in his hands now.
No, yeah, it is in his hands. Yeah, even the opposition, Nick, he's the one who spends the tons and tons. Do you know that in the opposition we have about 14 opposition registered opposition parties which are Museveni's? You need to know that.
Exactly. Yes. That's what I'm saying. Yes, everything is fake.
We are doing our research.
But let me,
okay, I will listen to you.
Hang on a second, Hang on just a second to all the people on, because we got to share our space here. Otherwise, the audience outside is not going to be able to understand what we're saying. I want to go to Zoe here just really quick, but let me just make a comment to Nick and say this. You made the comment that when you do the same thing, you get the same results. Please understand and know that we understand that, so we can't go to that. We understand and we know exactly what you're saying about the trickery. There's a victory here. Everybody's excited. We know that we can't let our guard down. Let me tell you, the tricks that this man has played over and over and over and over again, well, now he's playing those tricks with a smarter group. And the group that is in power right now understand and know that things are working against him. They're not working for him. 16,000 people rang throughout the world that was the victory that was had in Uganda. 16,000 people. That says a lot to ignite the rest of the people in Uganda to start to see the power they have. We're talking about 32 million people here. He does not have enough money to buy off that many people. Zoe, I'm going to go ahead and go to you. If you could be quick, I'll go on to Lawrence, and then we'll see.
I'm just going to give an example of Congo. You know, Mobutu was the founder of the party. He was the only one. All the titles were heaped on him, and he was the only one who would ever be. There's no human being, Nick, that lives forever. There's no human being that lives forever. And so for me, my hope, I'm aware of your concerns.
No human being, madam, can live forever, but ideology can live forever. Museveniism can live forever if you don't do anything about it.
The young people, if you are below 30 years old, the young people don't nurture Museveni's ideology. Because they did not see the people who were killed. They did not see the brutality. That's why they are fighting for jobs. They're asking for employment. They're asking for their own perspective of freedom, democracy, and governance is totally different from Museveni's old school. And so that is why he's now feeling this heat and these challenges. And so this ideology you are talking about only resonates with the old people of my age and those who were before me, and not for these younger people who of my children. No. It cannot. So let's have hope, and you cannot say that nothing can change. Museveni does not control everything in Uganda. We have seen, like Lawrence just said, have you ever seen Bukenya? Have you ever seen Mao? Have you ever seen Olaro Tunu? Have you ever seen all those opposition, Kiza Besigye, Lukwago, all of them coming together? Museveni thought he had the monopoly to divide the opposition.
The day of dividing
now
is over.
He is not. People learn. Yes. People learn. It's not like people are going to be your slaves forever. In this country, how many years did slaves suffer? Didn't they come out and eventually win that war and become and achieve their dream? Ugandans can also. We don't have to lose hope. And I think people in Uganda now know what is good for them. And for me personally, I know. And for the people I've spoken to, they know. And the people who have been listening to this radio understand and they know. And so whatever means we are going to use, Museveni will get out, and we are going to have a new Uganda without Museveni's ideology.
Exactly. Go ahead, Lawrence.
Just like Lawrence said, that something's being worked out, some of which cannot be aired out, cannot be revealed on air. Well, I do understand that, and things like is it Brenda? Now is it Nabukela? Brenda's a victory recently, having proven to us there is quite a huge support on the opposition. That's a good picture that the ground is good for us. Is good. Is living. There is a promising atmosphere for whatever whatever you're planning to do. Yeah. However. Just by looks of the the program, I don't know really. I don't know, because people are waiting to hear something.
I know. Let's go to Lawrence real quick. Go ahead, Lawrence.
Let me just say this fast. Yes. If there was anyone we thought was part owner of NRM, okay, David Tinyefunza Sejusa could have been one of them. Then the other one of those who joined Museveni later, who were really in cahoots with him, would have been Kasirye Gwanga. This week, on Tuesday, he was at an opposition rally saying he's happy that people have started waking up. That's on the side. But let me go to an analogy, okay? And I want you to listen carefully so that you can understand me. There is no way you can have an omelette without breaking some eggs. But the way you break the eggs matters a lot. Make sure that when you break those eggs, they land in the frying pan, not all over the stove and on the ground. Yeah. Okay? So, you need to be able to do that. And here is another one. You know, when the jiggers attack you and they infest you, surely you need a safety pin to get them out of your skin. But you also have to be mindful of keeping the house clean. You keep on cleaning. You don't stop cleaning. You take away vermins like rats or cats, whatever is bringing these small bugs, that fleas that turn into jiggers into your feet. But you need a safety pin to get them out. Nick, we are going to talk more.
Thank you. However, we need a timeline as we strike a balance between time and the cost. Thanks very much.
We promise you that this is going to happen.
Because there are many ways. There are many ways we can sort this out. However, million ways. But we need which one will be the quickest without incurring a very big cost. Thanks very much.
Give us your proposals.
I don't know because I'm just listening.
Give us a quick proposal. Yes, you said you have been following. You are also in opposition. What is your proposal? I told you,
I'm not in part of that because I'm in the UK. I'm just part of those people who are concerned about the country. That's why we are. Yes, I've been looking up on internet these kind of radios, and yes, I just stumbled upon this one.
And thank you so much, Nick, for calling in and being a part of the program today. Let me just say this as I go back to my panel. You know, one of the things that freed us as African Americans in the United States and gave us the liberties, the justice, the equality that we were seeking for, the same way the Ugandan people are, is that we had to move about in faith. We could not look at the big picture. If we kept our eye on the big picture, we would still be in the same situation we were in before the civil rights movement in the 60s. So there comes a time when you have to stay totally in your faith, continue to move forward. Lawrence just put it beautifully when he said making an omelet or cleaning your house. There are certain things that you just continue to kind of eradicate out of the picture, so that the picture becomes clearer and clearer and clearer, and before you know it, you have achieved the goal in which you set out to make there. But, you know, we can't go around. I mean, we all are foot soldiers here. There are a lot of things we do in our on the back burner that no one knows about on these radio programs. We are silent fighters here, fighting for a cause, and not everyone's going to know how much of our heart and soul and sweat and tears that we put into things behind the scene that no one will ever know about. Maybe someday they will, but they will never ever know about, because we understand and we know people in Uganda are dying each and every day, and we have to do something about that to move forward. Lawrence, I'm going to go ahead and go to you.
Thanks very much.
Thank you so much, Nick, for your call, and thank you for being a part of the show. I know we got a new caller coming in. Let me go back to you really quick, Lawrence, because I know you may have to go, and then we'll bring this next caller in.
Okay. Thank you. I think this issue is being handled effectively, but I need not to speak only to Nick when I'm making this comment. I need to speak to the entire population and tell them that, when dictators come to power, one of the reasons why they usually have their statues all over the country that they govern or they rule is to be always visible and seem as if they are untouchable. Museveni is doing it in another way by paying people to wear the T-shirt with his image. He goes to campaign for Narwanga in Ruel. He doesn't give out the image of Narwanga. They give out Museveni T-shirts. Okay, it's an intimidation tactic. That's why he's going out, threatening the media outlets, using his lobby in Washington to fish out a professor of journalism who is nearing retirement, go make offers to him and impose him on Ugandans as the editor of the Monitor. For those who are asking why there is all these changes in the Monitor, okay, decent people who have been working with the Monitor, many of them are actually exiting. One of them is now working for the mayor of South Africa. This is what's happening. So Museveni is creating this image of being something that cannot be pushed over. No. If we work together, if we forget the divisions that we have, let me tell you, if the people who were in place before Joseph Kony in northern Uganda, who stood up against Museveni, had received cooperation from the south, Museveni would be history today. But because there has been this divide and rule, which has worked effectively, when it happens to eastern Uganda, that's an Iteso Sabine problem. It's a natural issue. It's a Baganda issue. It's a Banyankole issue. Luckily enough, today, we have transcended that. All the way from Vula to Chilwa, from Kidepo to Kabale, from Nimule to the least Nkozi Island in Lake Victoria, we know that divide and rule has been the problem. And we must work together, and we will, as we must, we will get Museveni and his cronies out of our country, and they will face the law, and the justice will be done, and the sin to be done for the good of our country.
Thank you so
much. Countrymen, don't give up.
Exactly. And let's go ahead and take this other. All right, and then I have to take this other caller, but go ahead. Go ahead, Zoe.
Yeah, Miss Brenda, I think we are blessed to have many people calling on this show. And we are blessed to have interactions, not only on the show, but on personal level with several people. Museveni has built this fear in people to say that he has infiltrated every system and everybody, including infiltrating the opposition. And then he creates this fear among people. And let me tell you, not in this year are we going to nurture and nourish those fears. That fear is out, and we will only speak to people who think they come as infiltrators to change them, and they should join us. Everybody should join us. We now see people coming out of NRM and joining us as opposition. So I love that, and there's going to be a new Uganda. Thank you.
Exactly. Let's go ahead and take this other call coming through, and let me remind you guys also that on Wednesday, on the American Connection, Zoe and Madam Dorothy will be joining me on that program from 10 to noon this Wednesday. Caller, are you there? Go ahead and introduce yourself and come on in.
Hi, Miss Brenda. Good morning. Good afternoon to our listeners. This is.
Good morning. It's the activist. How are you?
I'm doing well, and you are. It has been hotting down over there, and I've been enjoying the program. Thanks very much to all the callers, and thanks very much to all the panels.
Thank you. Go ahead with your question.
My topic today has been raised by the caller. I think is by the name of Nick. Last time I spoke about this virus, the ideologism of these dictators going around spreading money, splashing out money, more especially to the youth. This is something that if we as opposition don't deal with it as quickly as possible, will affect us, because I have been in countries, or I've seen countries that have been affected by the ideology of the example that I can give is the ANC. As I'm talking to you right now, the ANC is full of corruption. It nearly lost the elections, although they got some results in some counties. They got some higher results, but there were some parties that came up. They utilized their corruption, and there is one party called the Economic Front that came up, and it used their corruption as a step over. So we must be very, very, very careful about this ideology, because the Mandela we've got right now, we have the Mandela ideology in South Africa. People are not voting Zuma as I'm talking to you. People are voting the ANC ideology. So I just want to ask Ms. Zoe, don't you see that the NRM are doing the same thing, whereby they have tried to make our people poor? They have made the youth that by not begging, you will not achieve anything. Don't you see that we might suffer in future of such kind of a thing?
We'll let Zoe go ahead and answer that, and then I want to go to Dorothy. So hang on just a second for me there. Zoe, go ahead and answer to that.
I think I will let Dorothy speak first, but for me, I just want to really emphasize the fact that once we conquer our fear, anything is going to be possible, and that we can take on this man and we can remove him.
Yes, go ahead, Dorothy. Come on in on the conversation.
Thank you so much, Miss Brenda. Thank you so much, Kalimagezi. The struggle continues. As Honorable Zoe mentioned, fear is a big factor. But as Mr. Nsereko said, unity is a big factor too. You know, those two go hand in hand. Mr. Kalimagezi, just think about this. For how long has President Museveni been in power? Honestly, the first 15 years, people were sleeping. As right now, some people are still sleeping. You know, people who were chased out of Mengo, there are those people who never went to sleep at all, but they were very few. And nobody could believe them. Okay? He has spent a lot of money doing what he was doing. Part of it we didn't know. But for me right now, this is where I stand. If we know how much we know right now, the way this man works and operates, for those who have left him and decided to work with the opposition, we are not even missing, but there is a few things as getting rid of this timidity, the fear. There is a few things as having determination. There is a few things as getting involved. Mr. Kalimagezi, this will go to my brother Nick. When Mr. Nsereko said, Nick, we need to talk, he said, I'm away here, I'm away here in the UK, I'm very far. Nick, this is your message. We are here in America. You called from UK. Kalimagezi is in UK. We need to get together and do what we are supposed to do. Mr. Kalimagezi, the key word here is we need to get involved. We need to get involved. This idea of listening, and it is not bad to listen, but we need determination, we need to get involved, we need unity. Which of all of these things we are working on, but we are still a little bit behind. But the way things are going right now, we just need to keep the pressure on. We just need to fight on. We just need to give our people, Kalimagas, you know, our brothers back home, they have tried. Many have been shot. Some in the open, others in the dark. Others, they are taken down where we don't even know. Whenever this man sees somebody who is capable. But my cry here is, people get out where you are. Those few pounds and dollars you make, please sacrifice a little bit weekly, not much. We are so many outside that we can pull up something significant. Our people back home, they have no support. We are lacking in that. But if we do timidity, determination, unity, I'm telling you, Mr. Kalimagezi, for me, the way I see things going and what happened in Luel, we are on the right track. We need 27 no. Yes.
Yes. I'm going to go back to Zoe here. But Zoe, before we go back to you, I just want to say this. The struggle we're in today is not the struggle we started 6, 8, and 9 and a year ago. We are making strides in ways that are great achievements on behalf of the Ugandan people. Great achievements from the day that we started these organizations to where we're at today. Go ahead, Zoe, and just comment off of what Dorothy was just sharing there.
That is the beauty of this show. The fact that anybody can come on, speak, give their contribution. That's the beauty of this show, Miss Brenda. That's the beauty of the Mother's Show. That's the beauty of our show, that we are able to share. At the beginning, we said every Sunday morning, we are grateful to wake up and share. And for me, I think the issues really rest upon how much has Museveni creating fear affected and impacted on Ugandans. How much? Because the truth of the matter is, you can see from those same research results, studies they have done, saying 54% want Museveni, 77% don't want him. That is enough to read between the lines that there are people who are throwing that fear out of the window. And now people know that Museveni is has the monopoly, as he thinks, of the military. That they are the only billionaires in Uganda, and they have the monopoly of the economic sector and the financial sector. That they are the ones who have the monopoly of politics. But let me tell you, sometimes you think you have everything and you will never realize when the rug is pulled under your feet. Because they are those, you know those little rats called mbabu, the big rats in the houses, and also the rabbits. When they get in your house, they eat your foundation. And for you, you are too busy thinking you have everything. Before you know it, that house has collapsed on your head. And let me tell you, that is exactly what the foot soldiers are doing. That's why the opposition is coming together. That's why there are people coming out of NRM to come and challenge Museveni. And those who are still there, the doubting Thomases, I am telling the doubting Thomases, get the thing out of your eye so that you unveil your eyes and make sure that you see straight. Because this fear the guy has created in you, which you have been a voice of and telling other people so that they continue with this fear, break that chain loose. Because you don't want to be chained by Museveni. Because people are broken loose. And so for me, for those doubting Thomases, come on board. Let's fight this regime in every way possible. We are going to organize. We are going to inform people, and we have seen the results.
We have actually seen the results.
We have seen a lot of results. I am not doubting anymore. We have seen a lot of results coming out.
And the results, just on this Sam Kutesa thing. I mean, the results, now that you have a poll going around in the United States of America, this poll has nothing to do and has not connected itself with the outside world. Just here in U.S. and by within 5 to 6 hours after it was put out, it had 2,360 votes. against this man
Brenda,
sitting in, because we may be here fighting on our own. Let me just say this, and I'll bring you back in just 1 second. The fight is not just here on the radio program. Everybody on board, if you look throughout the world, people are listening. People are engaged in what's happening in the walls of Uganda. No longer has this man been able to set aside and make his rulings and destroy and conquer the Ugandan people like he did in the days of old. Now people are I get emails all the time. People are wanting to know, why is this happening? What's going on? What do we do? How do we move things forward? So this is not just a fight of the Ugandan people anymore. The Ugandan people, we have given them a voice because now their voices are being heard around the world. Go ahead and with your next comment there, and then we'll let you go. Did you have something else you wanted to share?
You know, Miss Brenda and the panel, we have to be realistic when we are talking about facing this guy, facing the regime, challenging the regime. When we have the doubters, of which I can doubt as well. I can doubt the actions that are being taken by the opposition.
Yes.
Ms. Brenda, let's take a look at Malawi or South Africa. Uganda, we don't have... The army has been personalized. The police has been personalized. The prison has been personalized. All the security agencies have been personalized. Tell me, you, the opposition, how are you going to win the elections and you expect them to be announced? And you expect the security agencies to accept the elections that you have contested? Where on the world and on what planet are you when you don't have anybody in the army? Because we know in Uganda, when you have the army, we have seen the major on the social network, because she's connected to Museveni. She's supposed to abuse the hotel staff. She's supposed to abuse each and everybody. We can have the doubters.
Yes,
we
can.
will not have the doubters when we have the security.
Yeah, and we will answer your question when we come back. We're really going to have to take a break here, just for a few minutes, and we will come back. And when we come back, the panel will address some of the issues and concerns that you've just brought up here. So you're listening to Miss Brenda, the Honorable Zoe Bakoko, and Dorothy here on Freedom at Hand on this Sunday morning on Voice Uganda Radio. We're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back.
The Uganda American Muslim Association invites you to the 6th annual meeting and conference. It will be held from July 11th, 2014 to July 13th, 2014 in Beltsville, Maryland. For more details, you can visit our website at uwamalink.org or call phone number 301-408-8417. Remember, it's every Muslim's duty to know of the plight of another Muslim. This is an opportunity for you to meet and know fellow Muslims from Uganda living in America.
We muna Uganda, aliyo na joli, wategedde amawulire agali mu site.
Like it or not, I might see hard, drop you. You know it.
Uganda Construction Industry Safety Association, ekikolede.
Manya eddembe lyo ery'obwobwange. Uganda Construction Industrial Sector Association ekuleetedde emisomo egikwata ku bulamu bwo mu koosi zino wammanga: Leadership for Excellence, Hazard Management, Construction and Safety Administration, Frame Contractor, Transportation of Dangerous Goods, Workplace Hazardous, Material Information and System, n'endala nnyingi.
Right.
Kiri eri abakozesa nti tewakyali kufiirizibwa nsimbi mu kuliyirira abakozi oba abafiiridde ku mirimu. Tuteekateeka safety management committees. Tutraininga aba supervisors era tutunda ne safety materials. Kale weereza abakozi ne bamanager bafune okugunjulwa okw'enkugu ku bulamu bwabwe mu mirimu gye bakola.
Kiri approved by Uganda Construction Industrial Safety Association.
Gwe omulungi atuuliriza kino kirango kya njawulo amanyi n'eddoboozi nze Muga James chairman ow'akakiiko akateesiteesi ak'omukolo okugenda okukyaza Katikkiro mu Bungereza. Charles Peter Mayiga Katikkiro wa Buganda yakkiriza era yakakasa olugendo lwe olw'okulambula bannayuganda ne Abaganda abali mu nsi ez'enjawulo. Mu nteekateeka eno Katikkiro agenda kulambula UK, agendeko Sweden, agendeko Canada, agendeko mu USA. Mu nteekateeka eno naffe tulina omukisa munene nnyo okusonda ettofaali okuzza Buganda ku ntikko. Pulogulaamu egenda kutambula etya? Pulogulaamu etambula bweti. Ng'ennaku z'omwezi 23 August ali mu UK ku Harris Academy, oluvannyuma yeekoneko mu bika by'Abaganda. Bw'avaayo agende Sweden ng'ennaku z'omwezi 26 okutuuka ng'ennaku z'omwezi 28 mu August omwaka guno. Bw'avaayo ajja kuba nga yeekonako e Toronto mu Canada ng'ennaku z'omwezi 29 okutuuka ng'ennaku z'omwezi 30. Bw'avaayo agende Chicago 31 mu August okutuukira ddala nga 4 September. Bw'avaayo agendeko mu Boston mu America okuva ng'ennaku z'omwezi 4 okutuuka ng'ennaku z'omwezi 8. Katikkiro asuubira okudda e Uganda ng'ennaku z'omwezi 9 mu September omwaka guno. Guno gwe mukisa gwaffe okulaga obwagazi bwaffe erinnyaffe Buganda. Ng'okumanya ebisingawo osobola okukyalira omukutu gwaffe friendsofbuganda.org.uk. Sonda ensimbi ezo ezinayamba okuddaabiriza amasiro ate n'embuga z'amasaza ag'enjawulo okuzza Buganda ku ntikko. Charles Peter Mayiga agenda kuba nga atukyalira ate goberera enteekateeka ez'enjawulo mu nsi ezo z'emmenye, n'abakulu abateesiteesi bajja kuba nga bakutegeeza ebigenda mu maaso.
Kabaka wafike kabonero akalaga nti Katonda ne Buganda omwoyo gumube gulimira kabaka wange.
Thank you so much for coming back and joining us here on Freedom at Hand on this Sunday here at Voice Uganda Radio. We are down to our last 30 minutes of the program, so if you would like to still call in and be a part of the conversation, please feel free to do so. We just needed to change the direction here a little because, you know, this is not about fighting amongst ourselves. This is not about bickering and complaining about what needs to be done. I think in all of our hearts we know what needs to be done, and we need to deal with ourselves as individuals so that we can move together as a whole. Zoe, some of the comments that our last caller had, did you want to address those, or do you really want to get back on the topic of Sam Kutesa here?
Yeah, I want to go back to the beginning because I'm going to be summarizing, Miss Brenda. Today, we have had a very good debate and a very good discussion, and I want to say that we, as FUF and FADU, we are committed to working together, and we believe in ensuring that there will be a new Uganda, and we believe that the very many different, we're in the process of bringing together all the very many different groups in the diaspora, and we are already, I want to say, also working together with people in Uganda. It's not just we working out here alone, because the strategy for us on this radio is to inform the people so that they can make the right choices and they get the right information, because some people don't read Ugandan newspapers. And so I just want to say that we were focusing on these issues, that there is no democracy in Uganda. There's a lot of human rights abuse in Uganda. There has been gagging of the opposition by law. When the government passed this POMA law, the Public Order Management Act, that law is supposed to gag and silence the opposition so that they cannot go anywhere in Uganda and organize and address rallies. And that was the same law they were using to tear gas the opposition, even in the recent election of Brenda Nabu Kenya, which was successful anyway. And we have seen that Jacqueline Babazi is being tear gassed. She was tear gassed in Kayunga. Just this week, she was tear gassed in Zimbabwe, which is Honorable Kutesa's constituency. And this is the guy who is being fronted to come and chair the United Nations General Assembly. And for us, we are saying with very many voices, not us alone, in spite of the government sending out feelers, calling people and telling them, no, you are actually dirtying the name of the country. It's not about dirtying the name of the country. They are shaming us by sending somebody like that who has been silent on all the human rights abuses in Uganda. When Uganda has gone to Congo, it has been in Sudan. There are so many human rights abuses within Uganda. Sam Kutesa, who is the foreign minister, has been silent, which means he condones what his president is doing. And so how does he come with such a record and go to sit and chair the United Nations General Assembly, the assembly or the body which actually protects human rights? How does he go and soil it with that kind of dirt? And so for us, we don't believe it. We know the UN embraces human rights, and with what they are doing is not right. And so we have the petition going on change.org. Please get out and sign. And many people have signed, and we are grateful for that. Museveni's agenda long term has been to ensure that he has the monopoly of the military, the monopoly of politics in Uganda, the monopoly in the financial and economic sector. So that when he already has these three things, major things, he thinks that he can become a life president, and then after that he can front anybody, whether his son, his wife, his brother, or whoever he wants, because he has the money. To him, money speaks, but money did not speak in Luero. Just last week, money did not speak in Luero. And so people are saying, give us the money, we will eat it, and we will vote the person we want. And so therefore, Museveni is feeling that heat too. He's been arming the Balalo. He is putting military people in positions of cultural institutions to stifle the real cultural leaders. In Ankole, he is the military man who refused the Ankole to have their cultural institution. In Kasese, he went and instituted a military man as the leader of the Bamba. In Kayunga, he put a military person there. And last week, when he went to address the Basoga, can you imagine the shame? Is this guy heartless? Somebody dies in the meeting you are supposed to go and address. You don't care. You just go ahead and address that meeting. What kind of person is that, really, to do it? I think we, as the people of Uganda, are not going to allow ourselves to be hostages to Museveni's creation of fear. We throw that fear out of the window, we can do it. And Ugandans, I'm telling you, nothing is going to disrupt us. Not even the voices of doom, not even the voices of doubt can disrupt us. As Ugandans, we are prepared now, and the fight is on. And so, Museveni, you have to know that you will go. Whether you like it or not, in the new Uganda, we want everybody to be equal. Whether you come from the north, whether you come from the east, whether you come from the central, whether you come from the west, we are all Ugandans. We deserve to have equal rights in Uganda. We deserve to have equality and equity in distribution of development. The indices are very clear. We know that some parts of Uganda are the poorest of the poor. And so we cannot allow this segregation and division to continue. So I am very grateful to our brothers who always call in. And I just want to tell them that we, as the women, whose contribution is never appreciated. I know Mr. Lawrence, you appreciate us. I know Mr. Musana, you appreciate us. I know Professor Ami, you appreciate us. But I want to tell people that once women start, it will go up to the finish line, and we are going to do it. And we are prepared that our children's deaths are not going to be in vain. The torture of our children is not going to be in vain. So, Kutesa, we are coming to the UN. We are coming there. We are continuing to sign this petition. If you are put there in spite of, we will have registered our discontent. It's up to the UN to look the other way. But the truth of the matter is, it will be on record.
It will be on record.
So if anything happens, we'll say, didn't we tell you? And so I think that is really where I am going to stop. And I love you girls. I just love you so much because of the strength you bring on this program. I love you.
Thank you. And we have the professor hanging on here, so let's go ahead and bring him in. Good morning. How are you?
Good morning. Thank you very much, ladies. The discussion has been unusually interesting this morning.
Yes, it has.
And as a result, ladies, I could not resist responding. Well, I just wanted to make just a few points, and these may sound redundant or repetitive because a lot of people have already raised these issues, but maybe I could provide a different angle for looking at the same issue. The first one is, of course, the one raised by Nick from Britain. What I wanted to say about the comment I want to make on this one is to point out that political processes occur according to the logic of social causation. That may sound very abstract and theoretical, but actually it is part of the daily politics. If, for example, a political system does not protect freedom, the freedom to assemble, to associate, and people to express themselves, these are the means of communication between the people and the regime. If those essential freedoms are prohibited or curtailed, then people resort to riot, civil disobedience, or strike, or rebellion, and in the army, it's called a mutiny. Now, these come in a gradation. If the people are allowed to assemble, to associate, and express themselves freely, like they do here in the United States, there is no need to riot, or civil disobedience, or strike, or rebel. So there is a logic according to which these processes occur. And if all the riots and the civil disobedience and the strikes and the rebellions are not effective, they escalate into war, civil war sometimes. And that's a logical causation process, which many people may not fully understand, but it actually happens, and that's how it is clearly illustrated by what happened in the history of the United States and the history of South Africa, that this logic of social causation is documented historically, so it is not just theoretical. If a system does not protect human rights to assemble, to associate, something more will happen. A higher level of human communication between the people and the regime will have to take place until war is eventually inevitable. So, for Nick, these processes are going on. Let me stop here also and say something about what is going on in Uganda in this particular context. According to very reliable sources I have, there was an attempted coup in Uganda. I don't know how many people are aware of this, but about 2 weeks ago there was an attempt to overthrow the regime in Uganda. And guess what? The regime is now shaky. They did not charge the people who were trying to overthrow it by force of arms with treason. Instead, they have charged these people with failure to disclose information on security matters.
Wow.
Some of them have been charged in a military court at Machinde, and others, a few civilians also have been charged. So the regime is not all that secure, as some people may believe. And for me, what is more telling is the fact that instead of charging these people with treason, they charged them with failure to disclose information to the security, or breach of security. So I throw that in just to remind Nick that not everything is very well and under the absolute control of Museveni. Well, the other thing I have to add to Nick's comment is that social change, I've said this over and over, social change is inevitable. It will take place. You cannot keep any society the same all the time. Even if in Uganda, where political fear of a regime has been very high, it is diminishing. It is now not as high as it used to be. And I think Nick said that ideologies last forever. They don't. Ideologies are the same as dogmatic philosophy, and no philosophy lasts forever. The communism, for example, is no more. It used to look like communist ideology was invincible, was inevitable, was something created by nature itself. But it's no more. So, Nick, ideologies don't last forever. Social change will wipe them away, according to the logic of how rational they are. And that's good. Now let me go to the point of shame. I think the word shame was used. This relates to my first point too, that social norms contain an element of emotion, whether it is morality, it's culture, or it is law. They contain an element of emotion. That's why they are enforced. For example, if a woman is raped, people get angry. If somebody is killed, or a man defiles a child, there is anger. That's part of the content of that social norm. That's how the norms are enforced. So it is important for people to realize that this is also important in the process of democratization, to put some kind of emotional content into, for example, when there is a violation of ethics, when politicians misbehave or they are corrupt. What is lacking in Uganda and many other African countries, and the failure to enforce these norms, is the fact that people don't show their anger. They don't demonstrate that they are very angry, that a regime contains corrupt leaders, that it contains thieves, and that brings me to the issue of Kutesa. You see, the issue of Kutesa is very, very important. It's part of what the content of shame is in social norms. Let me, without boring you too much, read to you the preamble, the first part of the UN Charter of the UN preamble, it says that we, the people of the United Nations, determined to save succeeding generations from the scourge of war, which twice in our lifetime has brought untold sorrow to mankind, and reaffirm faith in fundamental human rights, in the dignity and worth of the human person, in the equal rights of men and women and of nations large and small, and to establish conditions under which justice and respect for the obligations arising from treaties and other sources, international law, to be maintained. Now, this preamble reminds me that that's the reason we should make sure that Kutesa should be ashamed to be a leader of the president of the United General Assembly. The people who have violated human rights. The first objective of the UN also is, under Article 1, is to maintain international peace and security. So how can you entrust the leadership of such an organization in the hands of people like Kutesa, who are corrupt, who violate human rights, who don't respect the rights of other people? So this campaign must be sharpened, must be strengthened, and must be pursued to its logical conclusion, to make sure that Kutesa does not become the next president of the United Nations General Assembly. So, in light of what I've said, I hope everybody agrees with me that we have a big job. Sometimes these situations look insurmountable, as if they cannot be accomplished. But they can be accomplished. When you look in history, people have achieved what was thought to be impossible. Look at Mandela, bringing the apartheid regime down. He was one man who was courageous, and he did achieve that. I remember when I was growing up, we used to be told that South Africa was such a powerful African state that it could overrun the entire continent of Africa in one day.
Wow.
Well, that's not true anymore. And
no, it isn't.
So maybe I should wind up at that point when what I say still makes some sense. Thank you very much, ladies, for sharpening our brains and encouraging us to call in. And I am particularly impressed and I'm made happy by today's program, because it means that you are being effective and you have an impact on the audience. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Professor, for calling in. As always, it is always a pleasure. Dorothy, and we're going to go ahead and go to you here because you have been very patiently waiting by, and I tell you, the topics just continue to grow. Go ahead and come on in.
Well, thank you so much, Miss Brenda. Oh, thank you so much, Miss Ramdin. Did he hammer the last point? I mean, everything he just hit it at home. Because the preamble, my goodness.
Yes.
So, he said coming generations, Museveni is Kutesa, they are banning of killing, Children, they get injured, you take them over there, you use them, you don't pay them their money, and you leave them there to die. Fundamental human rights, Mr. Kutesa and Mr. Museveni. Liars, liars, liars. So, public management bill, it was implemented. Mr. Kutesa, you tell the people it's not to be, it was signed, but it's not to be implemented. Well, our people are tear gassed, our people are killed, and, closed the doors. So, there is nothing much to be doubt about what is going on in Uganda. Before I forget, if you have not signed the Kutesa petition, please go to www.change.org. When you reach there, you see the search box, put in Sam Kutesa. It is that popular, you know. This website has thousands of petitions going. Put in Sam Kutesa, it will pop out, click on the petition, and there you will be. Please go sign. Miss Brenda, I think we have done our work here. Yes. People are informed, and will continue to do so. The UN, if you listen to their preamble, my assumption is that, given the given history of Sam Kutesa and Museveni, what they have done to Ugandans in general, northern Uganda, what they have done to Congo, the rapid capital of the world, what they did in Rwanda, the genocide, and everything that the anti-gay bill, the public management bill, this torture, we are talking about millions and millions of people dead, millions of people suffering. My dear, I assume that the UN will stand to its standards because everything Mutesa and Museveni stands for, Miss Brenda, violates the charter of the UN. You cannot mix those two. Exactly. There is no way. You cannot mix it. So, Ms. Sambili, thank you so much for reading that preamble for us. I think it is a God-given grace so that people know what UN stands for, why it was created, what Hitler did. UN was born. So they will stand up to the truth if it is to be UN and accountable. Nation big and small, everybody should be taken care of. For us here at Voice of Uganda Radio and FADU, SAF, let me tell you, we will stand for more good. We will stand for more good. Especially in our country, Uganda, where there is no more, where the fish is rotting from the head. We will stand for more good. We will do it for the right reasons. Number one being justice. And we will do it the right way. Make no mistake. Miss Brenda, I think we are blessed. We have people who have worked with Museveni and they understand him. Yes. I will not tire to give the Ugandan people, most especially the people of Luwelo, because what they did was a memorandum. They spoke. They need credit where credit is due. And we need to give them the positive that they have done to get more energy to move on. So, Sam Kutesa, we're going to be waiting for you. Should you show up, we will be right there to let the world know that you and Museveni, you are liars, you are killers, you are torturers, you are thieves. You have drained the country empty. There is nothing this man is going to bring to the UN Assembly, nothing at all. When you start calling us and you tell us that we should drop this Kutesa thing because this is not about local politics of Uganda. It is about Africa shining. How could Africa be shining in the UN when the man presenting Africa is all soiled? Yes. Once again, you cannot mix those two. So we are very much clear. There are more people clean in Uganda more than Sam Kutesa. There are more people clean in Africa more than Sam Kutesa who can represent us. Because that person, Miss Brenda, you see this arrogancy. Eh? This is not local politics of Uganda. So the Ugandan people, the Congolese, the Southern Sudan people, the Rwandese and Burundi people should be stepped on by these dictators. Eh? To let them do whatever they want to do. Well, if we have soiled Uganda, we will clean it up. And Sam Kutesa, you are not going to soil us at the UN National Assembly. Miss Brenda, thank you.
I know, and you're absolutely right, because if you took Idi Amin or if you took Hitler and put them in that same position, how would the world view that and how would the world look at that? I think what you were saying about people looking at this as local politics, it's not local politics when it affects the world. I mean, you're talking about other countries, surrounding countries that have been very, very affected by what this government has done. From the Congo to Sudan to Rwanda and all the surrounding areas. And so we have to look at this as a United Nations issue because it involves the United Nations. It does no longer involve just Uganda or one area or one people. When you have people around the world that are speaking out against this happening for the simple reason that it stands against the mission which was put in place when the UN decided to form a coalition of how we should govern ourselves within our own areas, how we should govern in our own communities and our own countries and our own governments. But then we need to come back to answer to something that was formed by all as to why the atrocities and why the things are happening. It's interesting for Sam Kutesa to say this. Just because it's been signed doesn't mean it's going to be implemented. If my employer gives me a check and they sign it, I don't want them to come and say I can't use it even though it has a signature. That's ridiculous. If you've signed off on it, it's going into place. You're not going to put it on a shelf and leave it there and not enforce the laws of that. And like some of the callers had said earlier, the laws that are, even some of the Americans that have come on board to talk about this, they said the rules that are set with this law is sickening as well. That you can be arrested even if you don't turn someone in. You can be arrested if you knowingly help someone. You can be arrested for many, many different reasons that you're not even a part of this, yet by participating in any way, shape, or form, you become a victim to the problem as well. Sam Kutesa has yet to come out and stand against anything that the president has done. And that he hasn't done. And because he hasn't done that in the eyes of the American people and in the eyes of the world, we see that as he thinks that everything's okay. Whatever his boss is putting in place, that it's fine. You, me, and Zoe talked here last week about the First Lady, what her role is, why she's not standing up for some of these things, even for the minister's wife who was just tear gassed. I mean, if for nothing else, the president should have gone to the paper and said, we apologize for that. That was not our intentions, unless that was his intentions. You understand? So he's not coming out to say this should not have happened and we're sorry. He's condoning it in his silence to say that, so be it. If she was where she wasn't supposed to be, she would get sprayed too. I've talked about this time and time again on the American Connection, that you are not safe in Uganda, no matter what position you hold. And people are starting to understand that because there's underground works happening with people in parliament in Uganda right now. They're coming to us. With people in the police force, they're coming to us. With people in the armies, they're coming to us because they understand and they know that they're not safe in this government anymore. So when Lawrence said that there's weakening in the party, there is definitely weakening in the party because the party understands and knows that for years and years and years, we're talking about 28 years here, they've stood behind a government, they stood behind a man, they stood behind his principles even though they didn't fully believe in them, because they wanted to move forward for a better Uganda, yet they continue to see it gets worse and worse and worse. It doesn't get any better for the Ugandan people. And Dorothy, we have to remember who we're fighting for here. We're fighting on behalf of the Ugandan people. It just so happens that the government is in our path, but we're fighting on behalf of the Ugandan people. We can no longer allow, when we first came on air, remember people were still being killed in the streets and their bodies were left there for days in the streets to rot. Their family members were not allowed to come in and take the bodies or participate in any way. Now, because of this radio station, because of other radio stations, because of news media that's been printed outside of the country, because of more and more people coming out saying this is not right, you don't see that type of thing happening in Uganda right now. And I'd like to think that we've all had a large part in the fact that we have stopped some of the killings that were just happening to innocent people on the roads. We put out a video that on YouTube that showed a lot of what was happening to the Ugandan people and why we could no longer stand aside in silence. This man, the sitting president, may have silenced the voice of the people in Uganda, but he has not silenced the voice of the people outside of Uganda. And what he meant to cause harm and use against the Ugandan people, I think has turned into favor for the Ugandan people. Because now you have more and more people listening and more people getting involved. More and more people listening to the extent that later on I'm really going to have to explain to my American audience what jiggers are and why you have to get them out. Because they're just not going to understand that. But one thing I love is that they send the emails because they're trying to figure out what is being said here. And I love that because there is an innocent in the way that American people are embracing Ugandan people with nothing but love for the Ugandan people. With love that they want to understand, they want to know, they want to embrace what's going on. And we have stopped a lot of the brutal killings that were just happening in the streets and bodies left lying all over everywhere for people to see. We are little by little diffusing the power of this man. It's like a ticking bomb. You send a crew in there and little by little they have to work at disconnecting the bomb. You don't just go in there and pull a wire and all of a sudden you say it's done. You have to take your time to make sure that the people around that area are not hurt or not harmed anymore in any way. I said earlier when we came on, and I will say it again, that any of the programs that you miss or that you would like to rehear, we do put them out there on YouTube. Keyword will be Voice Uganda Radio, and you can pull up some of the older shows. Thank you so much to all of those who were on board on Wednesday when Dorothy and I led the American Connection, which was a great show. Dorothy will probably be joining me again this Wednesday, as well as the Honorable Zoe Bakoko, where we'll continue on some of the conversation that we've had here today on the Wednesday program on the American Connection here on Voice Uganda Radio that will air at 10 to noon on Wednesdays from this point forward. We said it earlier, we're foot soldiers, and what we're doing is working on behalf of the Ugandan people, and we will not be detoured from that. But we thank everybody for their input. We thank everybody for their conversation, what they had to share. Whether you stand with us or you stand against us, your opinions still matter here on Voice Uganda Radio because you don't stand alone, nor do we. And we thank you so much for all the ways in which you participate and make us a part of your Sunday. It has been an interesting discussion here today, Dorothy. I will say that. And it was. But we thank the professor for the preamble there at the very end of what the UN stands for and the direction in which we need to head because of that. We're not making up these rules as we go along because this is what we want to see happen. We're following the laws and the rules that have already been set up. We're just making those who need to be accountable to seeing that through, that have been put in the offices that they have been, to see these things come through. It's just like the Honorable Zoe Bakoko said. We go on record as showing that we reject what is happening here by the petition that we've all signed. And Dorothy has reminded you once again on where to go out there and sign off on that petition. We need to keep this alive in the media. We need to keep it alive in the hearts of the people throughout the free world, and especially here in the United States of America. I'm happy to see all those that are getting on board and fighting this diligently with everything within them. Thank you so very, very much for allowing us to come into your homes on this Sunday and for being a part of Voice Uganda Radio this morning. From your hosts, Miss Brenda, the Honorable Zoe Bakoko, and Madam Dorothy, we thank you so much for being a part of Freedom at Hand here on Voice Uganda Radio. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday.